Looking up to your left, there's the Shard, or the Shard of Glass. And you've probably seen it on your travels, okay? It's the UK's tallest building. It's over 1,000 feet tall. It goes up 95 stories. And inside the Shards are hotels, offices, and apartments. Now, the most expensive apartment in the Shards, the penthouse suite, that was taken by the architect Renzo Piano. Now, when he designed the building back in 2012, originally he was offered £2 million for his design, and he refused. He declined the £2 million, as instead he requested the very top penthouse. So they agreed, they gave him the penthouse apartment. He lived up there for only 2 years, and then he sold the apartment for £48 million. He's a very clever businessman, and that now belongs to will.i.am, the music producer and singer. Mr. will.i.am, he lives in it. And this blue glass building to your right, that is home to the London Association of Window Cleaners.
Wow, Association of Window Cleaners.
And ahead of the boat is
and it's really shiny.
I know, right?
Tower Bridge behind us, London Bridge ahead of us. Now, the original London Bridge that the Romans built, it would have stood in this gap here to your right. And you can see through the gap, you can see the church there, that is St Magnus the Martyr, one of Sir Christopher Wren's churches. And also the monuments in between the buildings. And look, there's some brave people up on the monument, up on the platform. So they've climbed 318 steps to get there. So the monument is designed to resemble the candle that started the Great Fire of London in 1666. So it's Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire. If you look left and right, you'll see the name London Bridge. So this is it, the world famous London Bridge. And this is the 5th London Bridge to cross the river at this location. The Romans, they built the first ever river crossing here in around 43 AD. This present day bridge, the one you're looking at, that was opened in 1973 by Queen Elizabeth II. And the old London Bridge that stood here before this one, so the 4th London Bridge, in the 1960s, so the late 1960s, it was taken down, shipped across the Atlantic and reassembled. Does anybody know where? That's right, sir. Lake Havasu City in Arizona in the USA. So it used to be there. It's in America today. Bought by Robert McCollum for $2 million in the 1960s. In Arizona today, of all places. And the little pirate ship you see to the left in between the buildings is a seagoing replica of Sir Francis Drake's vessel, the Golden Hind. It's a real working Tudor galleon. Has been around the world twice, and it is a museum in the dock today. So Sir Francis Drake, he was the very first English captain to sail around the world. And looking to your right now, beneath the bridge, you'll see these windows. Now, this is a relaxation spa and sauna. Occasionally through these windows, we see people in a state of undress, and there are people in there today. Some days are better than others. Some days you wish you never looked.
Oh, right here.
Other days we go around again. This is Cannon Street Railway Bridge, opened in 1866. And as we come through, we're going to go all the way over to the left, and you'll see this lovely old London pub, the Anchor, the golden sign, and the pretty flowers. Established in 1615. So it's been a riverside pub here for over 400 years. And the likes of William Shakespeare, Samuel Pepys, Charles Dickens, myself and the captain. Just a few of the famous Englishmen who have drank at this pub. And, it's a lovely pub. I believe we're going to be going there tonight for research. So it's for educational purposes. If you'd like to join us in there, folks, and you are all formally invited about 8 o'clock, I reckon, for educational purposes. Southwark Road Bridge was opened in 1921. It's officially London's least used bridge. Now, it was originally built to ease congestion to the old London Bridge, but it is very hard to find by normal road users. It's mainly used by professional drivers, so lorries, buses and taxis. The reason being there are back streets and slip roads for the Borough Market, which is just situated behind the Anchor pub, back over there on the left, and it's a very famous market, famous for the food and the flowers, and we recommend it, especially of an evening time. Quite a lively happening place to visit, the Borough Market. And to your left, the white circular timber framed building with the thatched roof, and that is indeed William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Now the building, it is an exact replica to the style of playhouse that would have once stood here in the entertainment area known as Bankside. Now it is a working replica, so inside the building, well, they reenact all of the old Shakespearean plays, and they are all performed in the traditional manner. So there's no electricity, no stage lighting, no amplification. The building, it is open top, so when it rains here in London once a year, the actors get wet, and so does the audience. And they do not stop the performance, and this is where the famous expression, "the show must go on," originates. There's also no toilets, so it is very much to pee or not to pee. That is the question. If you can't go and see a play in there, it's actually very good value. You can see a live performance for as little as £10 each. And I'm sure you all agree, only a tenner for live entertainment, but especially in London, it's very good at value. And live is always better, live theatre, live music. And how's the live commentary going so far? Everybody happy? Fantastic, excellent. Very encouraging. So we just passed beneath the Millennium Footbridge, and that was opened by the Queen in the year 2000. And to your left, that building with the large chimney, well, that was formerly the Bankside Railway Station. Today it is famously the largest modern art gallery in the world, the Tate Modern, and it is free and open to all. Now, if anyone has ever seen modern art, you'll understand why it's free. There are some weird and wonderful exhibits on display, so it's definitely worth a visit. Go and make your own minds up. And looking up to your right, there's the magnificent dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece was completed in 1710. That was the tallest building in London right up until 1962. So before then, it was illegal to build anything taller. It is still protected. As you can see, nothing's built around it. It does stand right in the heart of the city of London. Miraculously survived the Second World War during the Blitz of London. It took 35 years to build, and Sir Christopher Wren, the accomplished architect, but he is buried in the crypt alongside Lord Nelson and the Duke of Wellington. Worth a visit, and again, similar to the monument, you can climb to the top of the dome, but there are 528 steps up to get there. They're breathtaking views, as there is no lift. Now these are the Blackfriars Bridges, so the railway bridge. In between the two bridges, you'll see these old red columns. Now these are the old supports from the London, Chatham and Dover railway line. Now they removed the top. They were sadly no longer suitable for the modern day railways. It was designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, very famous Victorian engineer. The footings remain as not to undermine the foundations of the existing bridges. The Blackfriars Road Bridge, this was opened in 1869 by Queen Victoria, and sometimes this boat, when it doesn't fit underneath these bridges, it's hard to imagine at the moment as we have plenty of clearance, but when the tide rises we lose clearance, and that is part of our discipline to become captains of this river. To obtain a waterman's licence, we learn all the individual arches of 32 bridges along the tidal river, and we constantly monitor the tide. So the moment the tide is going out, the level is dropping. I will explain a bit more about the tide presently. Go to the right, you'll see the building with the sloping roof and the arched windows. Well, that is the old City of London School for Boys. Look very closely at the building, and in between the arches there are four figures, or four statues, and they are some of this country's greatest scholars, and they are off from left to right. So you've got John Milton, Sir Francis Bacon, William Shakespeare, and David Beckham. Sir Isaac Newton. Now these individuals, they were carved into the old school as an inspiration, so put there to inspire the young boys. Now I mentioned a little bit about the tide, okay, so the tide is coming out. When the tide turns, in 5 hours, so when the tide begins to rise, in 5 hours the tide can rise 7 metres. And if you look along the river's wall here to your right, you can see the grey moss line. Okay, that is how high the river rises on average. Now looking underneath the lampposts, you can see these lions' heads. Now folks, today these lions, they are entirely decorative, but they were once used as an early flood warning. Now not so long ago, the police, they were patrolling embankments, and if one of these lions' heads was covered, submerged in water, then the London Underground system, it was at risk of flooding. And they would raise the alarm and they would evacuate the surrounding stations. Now the Victorian police, they had a rhyme to remember this. When the lions are drinking, then London is sinking. If it reaches the lions' mains, London's going down the drains. Or if the lions' heads are ever ducked, then London is completely flooded. Now you'll see on the right a measuring stick. Okay, so that is the ruler, the tidal gauge. And what we have today is we have the Thames tidal flood barrier located in Woolwich, so further down the river behind us. And if necessary, they can close the barrier to prevent London from flooding today. The white ship you see here on the right with the yellow funnel, that's the Wellington. And this was a New Zealand naval ship, and it is permanently moored here for the Honourable Company of Master Mariners. It is a livery hall for retired sea captains. In other words, an exclusive drinking club for retired sea captains. So, to become a Master Mariner, you need to have served at sea for a minimum of 20 years. So here on the river, well, we're not part of this company, we're not seafarers, but we are, however, part of a much older tradition. The Company of Watermen and Lightermen, founded by King Henry VIII in 1514, and he gave us our licence to row passengers across the river. And that licence, it still exists today, so the licence we obtained is a very historic licence. And you see this black and white ship on the right, with the portholes and the glass roof, that is the old St Catherine. And that ship, it used to be the Royal Barge. Many members of the royal family, they travel here on the river. This was the ship they'd sail upon. Now, as you can all see, it's looking a bit sad and sorry for itself today, a little bit scruffy, a little bit neglected. The royal family today, well, they have a new boat, the Gloriana, beautifully hand-painted in gold leaf. And they just leave that one there for when Harry and Meghan return to London. It's the spare. And on your left, you see the building with the electronic sign. That is this country's National Theatre. The building is voted every single year to be the ugliest building on the banks of the river by London's leading architects. However, inside you'll find the Cottesloe, the Littleton, and the largest, the Olivier Theatres, all inside the National Theatre. So three of this country's finest places. And looking up at the bridge here, you'll see up to the left, bullet holes, and just above us, the workers, they came under enemy fire when building this bridge during the Second World War. And Waterloo Bridge, well, it is known here in London, we call it the Ladies' Bridge, as it was constructed by a female workforce. So at the time, the menfolk, they were away fighting. The land army, the ladies as they were known, they built Waterloo Bridge. And this is the only bridge in London ever to be finished on time and under budget. So fun facts for the ladies of London. And just ahead of us here along the river's wall, coming into view, there is a stone Egyptian obelisk. Now this is Cleopatra's Inn, and it stands here 3,500 years old, carved in ancient Egypt. Now it was gifted to the British by a thankful Egyptian government to commemorate Lord Nelson's victory in defeating Napoleon and the French fleet at the Battle of the River Nile, 1798. Now it didn't actually arrive in London until 1877, It was lost in Egypt, buried under the sand for many, many years. When it was rediscovered, it was nearly lost at sea in the Bay of Biscay on the way to England. Now here it is, eventually standing tall as London's oldest monument, as I say, 3,500 years old. And on your left, the Royal Festival Hall, the last remaining venue from the Festival of Great Britain, a post-war morale festival for the nation, held in 1941. Many famous artists, they have performed in here. Whitney Houston, Pavarotti, David Bowie, Amy Winehouse. Even Frank Sinatra has performed here. All of whom have since very sadly passed away. So all we're waiting for is the Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
We love him really. Is it too late to say I'm sorry? Now folks, we're on the top deck. Please wave and smile at the people. Hello. Hello. There we go. So this is Charing Cross Railway Bridge. The footbridges either side are the Golden Jubilee walkways, and these were added in 2002, celebrating the Queen's Golden Jubilee. So her 50th. If there's anybody on there. As it's nearly low tide, we're quite low down, we're not close to the top of the arches, but as I mentioned earlier, when the tide rises, we're quite close to the tops of the bridges, and that's where it's very important to the wave of the people. Some of the kids, they like to throw things at the boats. Now on the right, that building behind the trees there, the Gothic building, that is Whitehall Court Mansion, home to the 5-star Royal Horse Guards Parade Hotel. Lots of luxury apartments and offices located in this building. You've also got in here the Winston Churchill Memorial Museum. The war rooms are opened here to the public. In here was where Sir Winston Churchill, this country's wartime Prime Minister, in his secretive wartime offices located in Whitehall. So open to the public today. And looking up to your left, well, there's a very rare sight here in London. It's called the Sun. And there's the Millennium Wheel, or the London Eye, London's most popular tourist attraction. Opened in the year 2000 to celebrate the Millennium. And it was actually meant to be a temporary attraction. So the London Eye was originally intended to last only 5 years. 25 years later, and it is still spinning. And that is because it makes a lot of money. Now they do say on a clear day, the London Eye can generate £250,000 in just one day. So we were thinking of renaming it to the Wheel of Fortune. There are 32 pods or capsules around the outside of the wheel. Each one represents one of the 32 boroughs that make up Greater London. And from the top of the London Eye, you can see all 32 boroughs, so a distance of up to 25 miles. Now, in recent years, the London Eye has become a very popular place for marriage proposals. So people, they have been proposing on the London Eye. Now personally, I wouldn't recommend it a marriage. In fact, I believe it's the second most popular place on the planet for marriage proposals. And that is second only to,
If you
anybody know the first?
better have a picture of you.
Well, it's actually this boat. The Eiffel Tower in Paris, of course, the most romantic place. But the London Eye does come in second. And if anyone was thinking about doing it, if anyone was thinking of proposing, just a quick word of advice: make sure they're going to say yes. Because it does take half an hour to complete a conversation. Of course, you get up there, excellent views on a nice clear day. It is very romantic. If you get to the top and they say no, well, that could be a very long and awkward 15-minute trip all the way back down, or at least it was for me. Now ahead of us, and to the right, you can see the Houses of Parliament, the new Palace of Westminster. Okay, so it is a royal palace. It belongs to the Crown. However, the King allows Parliament to sit inside it. Now looking at the building, the tower at the far end with the flag flying, that is called the Victoria Tower, and that was named after Queen Victoria, who finally opened the palace in 1870. And that is the monarch's entrance into the palace itself. The famous clock tower, everybody calls it Big Ben, internationally recognised as Big Ben. This is the Elizabeth Clock Tower. That was formerly the Westminster Tower. It was renamed officially in 2012, this time celebrating the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, her 60th year. So Big Ben, well, it is the nickname for the 13.5-ton bell inside the tower. And Big Ben the bell, well, it strikes on the hour and on the hour only. So you can't actually see Big Ben, or at least not from here, but you can hear it. And what we'll hear next in a couple of minutes are the quarter bells, the Westminster chimes, dividing the hour into 4. Okay, not to be mistaken for Big Ben, which, as I say, as mentioned, is on the hour. Now, if you look beyond Big Ben, which, by the way, we all call it that, there is Westminster Abbey. You see the 2 towers of the Abbey, where we've been crowning kings and queens for 1,000 years. So this was where William the Conqueror, he was crowned King of England on Christmas Day 1066, and ever since then, every single monarch crowned at the Abbey. That's 40 different kings and queens in nearly 1,000 years. So right up until present day, our newly crowned King of England, King Charles III. Right then folks, we're just waiting for a little bit of river traffic, and these Uber boats, okay, they cause a wave. So as we come into contact with the pier, there may be a slight bump, alright folks, so it's best to remain seated, okay, so we're slowly going to drift over to Westminster Pier, so if you can, just remain seated for the moment. Now before you leave us, have a little look around you, okay, make sure you've got all your bags, cameras, shopping, souvenirs, and all your children as well. Okay, please remember your kids. I was actually left here myself at the age of 4. Nobody came back for me, and I'm still here. So please remember all your bags.
It's funny to drive, you know.
Thank you very much for travelling with us on this fine morning. I really hope you enjoyed yourselves on the Millennium of Peace. And I hope a few words from the live commentary that made it a memorable experience. Now, as I mentioned before, we're not official tour guides. Okay, we're not paid or trained